All right, so today we're going to be talking about the 3 pros of working at a tech startup. A little about me. My name is Sanjay. I've been in tech sales for 4.5 years now. Currently, I'm the founding AE for a Series A startup based in San Francisco. Everything I'm going to be talking about today is from personal experience, what's important to me, and hopefully coming out of the video, you'll know if being at a tech startup is right for your career, and feel free to ask any questions you have in the comments below. Number 1 is increased responsibility. From my experience, you learn way more about a business strategy, how a business is built, how it's scaled, working at a startup than you do ever working at a public company or college, for example. For me, when I started at the startup I'm at right now, day one, we had no tools, no sales process in place. So I actually got to go and evaluate some of the tools that we'd be using, understanding how we want to negotiate those contracts, how we want to implement those tools. And then I also got to write and define the first sales process with my boss. So really, you get a blank canvas when you start day one. You get to really build those processes that the team after you gets to use. So it's actually really interesting to see how you take an idea and make it into a reality. And I think you can only really get that experience working at a startup. Another piece of that is you get to do roles that are typically reserved for other departments at a public company. Like, for example, I was probably doing the job of a sales manager, but also a marketing manager. So I was helping, define that initial sales process. I was also helping define how we wanted to price our product. I was building together all the sales collateral or marketing collateral and the messaging, how we wanted to convey our value proposition. I built the entire intro deck. So how we wanted to introduce customers to our new solution. All of that, typically at a big company, you've got your manager managing that, or you've got someone in marketing building that for the sales team. But at an early stage company, you get the responsibility of different departments and also leadership as well. Number 2, networking. So if you join a good startup, you're going to be working with extremely intelligent and extremely well-connected people. Depending on the size of the startup and your role, you're probably only 1 to 3 levels from the co-founders and the CEO of your company. So you get to really talk to the people that are making the decisions on how the business is run. Speaking of that, if you're only 3 levels away from the CEO, that typically means you're only 4 levels away from the directors and the board of directors, which means that you get visibility if you do well at a startup to the investors. So if you're like me and want to start a company in the future, one of the big draws was getting exposure to the investors, because in the future, these could be the people that could potentially fund a startup idea that I have. Those early stage employees, even the founders and the executives at your company, they could be your initial angel investors or even your first employees or co-founders. So this network that you build is extremely important. And I think you can only really build that when you're in a small team and really get to know people at a company. And even if you're not looking to start a company in the future, the network you build at a startup is going to be huge. Like a lot of my friends currently today, even me, a lot of the opportunities we get for new jobs comes directly from our network. We typically don't go out and apply for jobs, but in tech, people travel in packs. And so the network that you build today could open up, those future job opportunities that you don't even have to apply for, but you get, brought in for. Number 3, development. Now, this kind of ties back to the first point I made, which was around basically getting responsibilities you're underqualified for. But I felt like this warranted its own point. When I joined my startup, there was no formal onboarding. There's no continued enablement, which sounds awful, but it was actually pretty great for my personal development, because I worked at a public company where I had really good training. I had a very structured sales process, and the company I'm at today doesn't have any of that. And so I was able to figure out what the gaps look like today at the startup I'm at and go find solutions on my own. So a lot of the enablement I'm doing, I'm reading on my own. I'm trying to figure out how do I take the thing that I'm learning and implement it at the company I'm at, the startup I'm at today. And so just from like a personal development perspective, I think it really accelerated how quickly I can find and fix problems. Another thing that's super important is you get to work with leadership at different functions across the startup. So for example, I got to work with the VP of customer experience on how we want to transition accounts into customers, how we want to take existing customers and grow their usage of our solution. I got to work with our head of marketing around how we want to convey our value proposition, what types of materials his team can build to help us win more deals. I got to work with our CTO and head of engineering on designing a new way to deploy our solution, and also develop our solution, I guess. And also In sales, you're the voice of the customer, and so I got to take product feedback from prospects, take it back to my CTO and head of engineering and tell them like, hey, let's build something. This is what the market wants, so they can kind of prioritize their roadmap, so that the company is ultimately building a product that people actually want to use. You can only really get this kind of responsibility and visibility into the leadership and how a company wants to go to market when you're at an early stage startup. So this was a big pro for me because I learned how to have these conversations with senior leadership. I learned how these different functions within an organization work together with sales. And I kind of understood how all these different cogs kind of worked together to take a product to market, essentially. So I think from like a learning perspective, like I really learned like how a business takes an open source project, commercializes it, takes it to market, and then grows that customer base, which you really can't get working at a public company. Awesome, y'all. So that's the video for today. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Like and subscribe. I'm going to try to post videos weekly at this channel. And yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn as well. It's Sanjay Ravichandran is my LinkedIn. But outside that, have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.